Welcome. Hey, Facebook. Hey, I know it's been a while, but I am coming live because we are in Armed and Legally Dangerous with me, Chayla Jackson, the Purpose Police. We are in the Prepare for War series. We're gearing up for it, and we are in it. We have our training, our 9/11 training, Advanced Spiritual Warfare, coming up on 9/11, and it is going to be fire. And so in preparing for that, prepare for war, understand that spiritual warfare, especially for us as kingdom CEOs, is not just what happens in the spirit. The spiritual warfare impacts us in the natural and in business. And so in prepare for war, understand that this is war, y'all. This is war. And so you prepare for war ahead of time. You don't wait until war comes to your door. At that point, it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. And so in this Prepare for War series, I'm coming today to talk to you about choosing your battleground. Choosing your battleground. Now, we have our spiritual warfare training taking place on 9/11 on defeat a terrorist attack, because a terrorist attack is a different type of attack. And so you can find out more about that and get your seat. Do not delay. Go get your seat at onedangerousceo.com/events. But I want to talk to you about preparing for war because look, the attack sometimes comes in a lawsuit. And if you don't choose your battle now, the law has already chosen it for you. And depending on the battleground that's been chosen, it will either give you an upper hand to win, or it will already prepare you for defeat. We don't want to be defeated. We want to win. And so to prepare for war, we have to prepare ahead of time. Now, look, I went to high school with someone, and we still talk and communicate with the guy I went to high school with. I still talk to him, and he's a Marine. And I remember years ago, we had a conversation, and he told me that Marines prepare. They do training before there is ever war. They train in their off time. Kingdom CEO, there's no difference for us. In business and in the spirit, we have to prepare before war ever gets to our door. Because if you're trying to prepare when war hits, it's too late. You don't know what to do, what weapons to do. It's too late. And the same is true for this. So for choosing your battleground, understand that for many of us, we do business across state lines. We have customers, we have clients that live in states and sometimes countries that are opposite of where we live. And so, if you, let's say, for example, you are in Maryland and your client is in Las Vegas, and let's say that your client doesn't want to pay the $30K that they owe you. How you going to get that money? It's too large for small claims court. So you would have to sue them in regular court. But here's the thing. Here is the issue when you have a client in another state. If it's not mentioned in your contract where the battle will take place, where the lawsuit must take place, now you are at the mercy of the law. And you want to know what the law says? The law says this: the court has to have jurisdiction. The court has to have jurisdictional authority over all the parties in a lawsuit in order to hear the case. So if the court doesn't have jurisdictional authority over the client in Las Vegas, they can't hear the court. They can't hear the case. What that means for you is, in order for you to sue, you're now going to have to go to Las Vegas. Do you have the money? Do you have the time to go litigate in another state? This is what happens when you don't prepare for war. This is what happens when you don't choose your battleground. So the question is your contract silent on where litigation must take place? Does your contract specify where litigation must take place? See, this is the one you don't want to skip. This is the video you want to tune in and lock in for, because chances are your contract probably says what law governs the interpretation of the contract, but it doesn't specify where litigation must take place, which means if it doesn't specify where litigation must take place, you are at the mercy of the law. So let's talk about jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is biblical. It's biblical. When Jesus Christ was on trial before he was going to the cross, Pontius Pilate said, "Oh, you a Galilean? You under Herod's jurisdiction." And he sent the case to Herod's jurisdiction. And so Herod was doing the investigation, and he said, "We don't find any fault with you." And he remanded the case back to Pontius Pilate's jurisdiction. This is jurisdiction. Who has jurisdiction to hear this case? Who has jurisdiction to decide this case? And so with courts only have jurisdiction over the people who live there, including the businesses, and the people who come there. People and property, if it's within their jurisdiction, they have authority over it, whether it is a person or it's property. And a business is the same thing. If you incorporate in a state, the state has, that court in that state has jurisdiction over you. Okay, that means that you can be sued in the state where you are incorporated. Now, when somebody lives in a different state, the court doesn't have, unless this person has contacts in that state. But if the person never comes to that state, the person doesn't live in that state, the business has no contact with that state whatsoever, the court where you are does not have jurisdiction authority over that person or over that business. That means you got to go there. However, there is an exception to how you can give the court governing jurisdiction. It's the exception of how you choose your battleground. It is called, look y'all, I know the camera is back, so I'm just going, I'm going to try my best. Okay, I'm going to try my best to write backwards. It is called consent. That's all. Oh gosh. It's called consent. There we go. A little bit better. My handwriting not like that, but it's called consent. Okay? Consent. How do you get consent? You put it in your contract. This is why if your contract is silent, it's not just enough to say, "Oh, litigation must take place here." You also have to get the consent. They consent to the jurisdiction of the courts, with jurisdiction where you are. This is what I call home court advantage. If you ever played basketball or sports, there's something about playing on home turf that gives you an advantage. But when you are in business, the advantage is this. People who don't have the money to travel, people who don't have the money to waste, chances are if they have to travel to your state, they're not going to sue you. This is a litigation battle strategy. This is why I write it into the contracts of my clients. This is why I write it into the contracts for 180 contracts, because you win in court before you ever get in court. You win the battle oftentimes before the battle ever comes to your doorstep. And so your contract needs to have a jurisdiction clause. The jurisdiction clause is not this law governs the interpretation of the contract. That's the interpretation of the contract. But the court needs jurisdiction to be able to have authority and make a decision over people who they have no authority over. So for example, I'm going to give this to you again. Maryland doesn't have any jurisdiction over Virginia. Virginia doesn't have jurisdiction over Florida. Texas doesn't have jurisdiction over Montana. Montana doesn't have jurisdiction in Georgia. They are limited to the borders of their jurisdiction. Another way to explain this: your neighbor doesn't have jurisdiction in your house. Jurisdiction authority, jurisdictional authority. And so the type of jurisdiction is personal jurisdiction. Does the court have personal jurisdiction over the people, over the property, over the businesses that are parties to this lawsuit? If they don't, they cannot exercise authority. This is our Prepare for War series. Choose your battleground. We're leading up to our 9/11 Advanced Spiritual Warfare training, because when a terrorist attack happens, it's not just a regular attack. 9/11 didn't just impact the people who died. It had massive impact. And the same is true for us spiritually. So we're getting equipped now. We're preparing for war now. And we have our guest trainer coming, Pastor LaShawn Law. I know her personally. She's vetted. She is authorized by heaven. And baby, she's coming to prepare us on 9/11 for an advanced spiritual warfare training. This is not for the babes. This is not for the easily offended. If you don't want to be caught unaware, you want to make sure that you can defeat a terrorist attack before it comes to your door, you need to get your seat in this training, and you can do that at onedangerousceo.com/event. This is armed and legally dangerous. This is not where you're just armed and dangerous, where you pose a danger to yourself and everybody connected to you. But this is legally dangerous. The law is on your side. The law can back you up because you know it and you know how to execute it. Look, I gave you some things, but I couldn't give you everything in this. But one thing you need to know is that your contract needs to have consent for the parties, your client, your customer, to consent to the personal jurisdiction of the courts. Choose your battleground, because if you don't want to litigate in another state, if you don't want to go to another country, then you need to say, this is where litigation takes place. That's the venue. This is the venue where you have to bring your case, and you want to be clear, not just on the state, but the county as well, because some of us know how big our county is. This is how you prepare for war. This is how you win before war ever gets to your door. This is how you make sure that your contract is not just a piece of paper, but it's a weapon in your arsenal. It's a weapon that works for you, that you are armed and legally dangerous to protect the business God has assigned to you. This is how you prepare for war. You put it in your contract. All right, y'all. Facebook is going to be taken down last. So this is going to be on our YouTube channel at One Dangerous CEO. But again, go to onedangerousceo.com/events and make sure you get in the room for our 9/11 spiritual warfare training. This is advanced, y'all. This is advanced. This is not for play. So that's all for tonight. Look, if your contract does not have the consent, the jurisdiction clause, I want you to just be honest and type down, no, I ain't got it. Yes, I got it. I want you to be honest. This is a safe place. Armed and legally dangerous is a safe place to correct your legal mistakes, because the reality is you don't know what you don't know, and that's what makes you dangerous. But armed and legally dangerous is that now you know something that now can go into your arsenal. You can sharpen your contracts a little bit better. All right, y'all, I'm signing off. Make sure that you share this, like, comment below. Be honest. Do you have this in your contract? Get in the training for 9/11. And if you missed this, it'll be on our YouTube page. Have a good evening.